So let's begin with arrays. So welcome to the thing back, and let's take we code it from the back. All right, so we're gonna be coding from the back. So let's continue with our arrays, because yesterday last week I did some I released a video whereby we're talking much about solving the problem whereby we have to calculate the sum of the array. But I just realized that on my videos we have never done much of those, and we also have to do maybe an array just to be able to help those ones doesn't really understand what array are. So I'm just going to explain the definition of an array, and then we'll take it from there. So at the moment, the definition of array is states as follows. We can just say array are the data structure that are used to store multiple values in a single variable. And then we can say each value in an array is called an element. And each element is accessed by an index. So which means on array we have two things. We have element, we also have indexes. So then the values that are inside of the array, they are accessed by an element. I mean, by the index, sorry for that. They are accessed by the indexes. So what are indexes? What are elements? So elements are the values that are in the array, and then indexes are the one that access those elements. So okay, so let's now stop doing the talking, and then let me just take you through, and so that you can understand better what I mean by that. So okay, I'm gonna initialize a simple array of integer, and then I'm gonna give it a name of num. These are all integer. I'm gonna give it a name of num. So I'm gonna put the value inside that are 1, 2, 3, 4 up until 5. Okay, just separate them. These are the values that are inside of the array of num. Okay, cool. So now these are the values that are inside of array of num. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we call these values elements of an array. So these are the element of an array. So for you to access each of these values that are inside of array, you have to use indexes to access them. And where do we get the indexes? The indexes, they are the numbers that are inside of this array and element, but you cannot see them. We use them to access what? The values of this array, which are elements. So for now, for example, so if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in an array, which means we've got 5 numbers inside of this array, and all of these 5 numbers that are inside of this array, they have different indexes based on their positions inside of the array. So if you can check, we have number 1 there inside of the array. So number 1 has got its own indexes, and then we have 2, it has got its own indexes, as well as 3 up until to 5. They've got their own indexes which are different from the other. So now, for you to be able to know the indexes of the array, you need to be able to run through the loop. You need to be able to access the array. So how do you access the array? So for us to access the array, we can access the array at once, but by knowing the value of the array, that's where we're going to get the array, or by knowing the indexes. So let me just explain indexes to you. So now I'm going to comment out something here just to write index. So index are the numbers that we use to access the elements in the array, right? So we can say that index always starts from 0 in an array. So we can say index always starts from 0. So in the array index, they always starts from 0. So what do I mean by that? We say we don't have any index that is negative, and we don't have indexes that starts at 1. So they start from 0. Whenever you see an array with an element inside, just know that the first element of that array, it has got an index of 0. So let's look at the array of num there. So the first element is 1. So when we say all the index starts from 0, we're meaning that the first element of an array, it has got a 0 index. So 1 there on the num array, it has got 0 index. So the following element, which is 2, it has got 1 index. So they start counting from 0 going upwards in a positive way. So which means that 2 there inside of num array, it has got 1 index. 3 has got 2 index, 4 has got 3 index, 5 has got 4 index, sorry for that. So for me to be able to show you what I'm talking about and to be able to explain index to you, that we use index to access the array, I will have to do the following now to show you that indexes are the one that we use to access the array. So you can just say cout. So we want to display the value of index 0. So let's say the value of index 0. Okay, so when I display that value, okay, so how do we do that? So we just have to come here and then and say num inside of these square brackets we put 0. So we want to see what is inside of the value of index, I mean 0. Okay, that should be fine. Then we just run that. So since we put index 0 inside of the num array, so which means that it's going to retrieve the value or the element that is assigned to index 0. So that element is 1. So as I was saying that our indexes always starts from 0, and indexes we use them to access the elements of an array. So if we put 1 there, we should be able to get 2. There's the 2 there. And then if we put a 3, for example, we must get 4. Okay, there's 4. So I think now I've explained them in a way that anyone can understand what are indexes and anyone can understand what are elements is. So then now, for us to be able to access all of these elements of the array, we need the following thing. We need something called a loop, because now we want to access all this array. We actually want to access all these elements in the array. So we want to make sure that these values that are inside the array, we display all of them. So for us, we need to be able to loop through the array so that we can display all these values. Okay, so before I do that, there's also an array for string. So we have array of string, we can just say name here. So array of string, we can give it names, and then so on array of string, the difference is how you initialize it. If they have already they assign in values. So for example, I'm gonna put my name there. So and then I'm gonna put other name as well. Okay, let me just say back, and then I'm gonna put another name there. Let me just say and. Okay, so we have an array of string that has got 3 elements, actually 3 values as well. So for me to access thing, I have to say I have to remind myself that thing is the first element in the array of name, and then let me just put e here so that it becomes descriptive. So for me to access thing element in the array, I have to use index 0 because thing is the first element of the array. And then for me to access back, okay, so I have to use 1 because back is the second element in the array. And then just like that up until to go to and I have to use 2 because that's the last element in the array, which is the third element of the in the array. All right, so now let me just try to display what I just did, and then let me just say, okay, I can just see this, cout, and then I say, what is your name? All right, then put a question there. Then I do that. Then my name is what? Name 0. Okay, so my name is name 0. So it's gonna access the thing name. So my name is Thane. So actually, that's it. So if I want to access back with the same thing, if I want to access and we use the same thing. We use indexes to access all the elements in the array. All right. So for me to be able to loop through the array, actually to go through each and every value in the array, so I have to use a loop, right? So let me just comment out as well this message now, and then now let's work on using array with the for loop structures. So we can say for, and then we say int I equals to 0, and then we say I is less than size. All right, I'm going to explain a bit about the size because it's not initialized as yet. And then we say I plus plus, okay. Then let's open that. So okay, so we speak about size, let me just put it cap as here. So when we speak about size, we're speaking about the number, or maybe we wanna count the number of the array. So the how long will the how can I put it? So actually when I speak about the size, we're talking about the size of the array. So how many elements do we have inside of the array that we want to loop through? So at this point, if we're looking at the array of integer that is called now, that is called numbers elements, so we have five numbers inside, so we can't write five there on the sides because obviously we don't know if array changes maybe, and then array comes with more numbers than what we have. So if it comes with more number, maybe in the problem that we are dealing with, maybe somewhere at work or maybe somewhere else, so we need to be specific. We just need to be able to get the data or maybe the numbers of the elements by the size method. So how do we do the size method? We can just say int, and then we put size here because we're initializing it. Then we say size of, then we spoke about the num array because we're doing that. So then we have to divide that with the size of that array again, now with an index of the first element. Okay, then so now we have a size, so which means that the size now is equal to the size of those element numbers that are inside of the array, so which is 1 2 3 4. So which means here we have five rather than putting five manually. All right, so now, so what we can do now, we can also say that we want to loop through each and every value that we have there in the array, right? So we can just say cout. All right, then we say uh, the element of this array are okay. Then now we can just make this element to show the time of the array. Okay, times of the array. Then we can do n line just to avoid having another uh, line after another. Okay, so now when we have this, we are saying we want to look through the array of num because we want to see how many elements do we have, and we also want to see those elements. So let's do that. So there we go. So we are looping through that array. So we have 1 2 3 4 5 array. So these are the elements of the array that are in the num of array. So for us to get all of them at once, we have to use a for loop. All right, that's also good. So so we can also do the same to be able to see the value of the array of the name. So we just do the same method, and then it's going to show us that. So but now if we want to view the indexes of each and every value, we can just say here, we can just change maybe this message here and say, we can say the index of this element, which is going to be printed here, and then we can say is. Then now we also have to display the index. Okay, then we can say I, then we do that. So why is it complaining here? Let me just put that back. So I think I'm missing something here. There we go. So it says the index of this element is, and then it's going to display the element, and then after that it can say okay, this doesn't make sense. Okay, let me just say the value of this element is, okay, the value of this element is, I was smoking my socks there, that was a mess. So you can say the value of this element is, and the index the index is. All right, that's good. So you can just say the value of this element is, and then we display the value, and the index is, and then we display the value of the index. There we go. So let's have a look. So now we say the value of this element is 1 and the index is 0. So we are displaying the element that is inside of the array of num and also displaying the indexes that we use to access those elements. So that should be fine. That should be good. So now let's proceed to another thing. So now that we understand the array and now we know array and why do we have to use them on a data structure. Okay, let me just explain a bit. Why do we have to use array on the data structure? Is because that imagine maybe you're employed by the company and they want you to extract a data of someone else, maybe more information about that person. So you can use the data structure, you can use array to pull that information to be able to navigate through each and every information of that person. So it's very straightforward. So they can ask you to do that at work. And one of the things that I will have to let you know is that such questions whereby we use this array, they are very, very much key questions that comes when you are doing interview. So when you're doing interview for your first job, or maybe when you want to try to move to get another job, so they will ask you a lot about the arrays, and they're not going to ask you maybe a practical questions and sorry, theoretical question about array, but they will ask you practical questions whereby they expect you to be able to solve the problems that includes array as well. So they will ask you a lot of questions about array because obviously they believe that if you do understand array, then you can retrieve more information of using data structures knowledge that you have. All right. So now, okay, let's proceed to the next step. Since now we understand a bit of an array, so let's have a problem that we can solve. Okay. So the problem that we can solve, we can think about. Okay, so let's solve an array that Okay, so let's say on this array we need to get the sum, right? When I get the sum of the array, that give us to the target. So when I get the sum of the array, that is equals to the target. So after getting the sum that is equals to the target, actually we should be able to display the number that it give us that target. So for example, so let's say mm, let's say for example our target is 9. Okay, so our target is 9. So okay, so the question will be like, in this array, which is the array of num, let's get the element, okay, the element that sums up and give us the target of 9. Okay, there you go. So we are saying in this array of num, that is goes to elements that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need to be able to sum the element that give us the target of 9. So if we go through the array of num that we have there up, so we have the sum, we can have elements that can give us 9. So if we add 4 plus 5, it give us 9, right? But if we add any other values except 4 plus 5, they won't give us 9, right? So what we need to do, we need to loop through this array, and then when we loop through this array, we need to be able to get 4 and 5 as in our answer, because when we add 4 and 5, they give us a target which is 9. So we need to display those values that are 4 and 5. So what do we do by that? So once you hear something like that, um what we can do, we can use a nested for loop. If you don't understand much about nested for loop, you can just type it on the comment, then I can do a video about that. So we can use nested for loop, whereby the loop will have to loop through each other loop and do the comparison of the values that we have, right? So let's now tackle that challenge. So it's also for the first time me I'm doing this challenge, so let's see if we can get it by my method. All right, so we're just gonna use we're just gonna create another for loop here since we have the other one. So we'll create another for loop here. Okay, and then let's say for and then we say integer equals to j this time. Actually, integer j equals to 0. Then we say j is less than size. We are using the size, right? So j is less than size of that array. Then we say j is plus plus, right? So we want j to increment every time by 1. Okay, so now what do we do? So now we must have if statement to compare the two for loops to the target, right? So we're saying if num that we have there I, okay, on the first one is equals to, not equals to, but it's plus, okay, num j plus num j, okay, is equals to what? Target. So I think we must have two equal sign there. Then it's equals to target. So we're gonna initialize our target as well because now target is not initialized. So let's initialize our target. So our target will be 9, right? So we're gonna have to say int target equals to 9. Right. That should be fine now that we don't have any error. Then now we can just open the bracket. Right. So but think about the for loop we have here. Okay. So we are comparing, we are saying if index I plus index j, index I has got 0, so we're gonna be saying if 1, which is here, plus another 1, which is here, give us a target. All right, if they give us a target, and then let's do what? Let's display it. But now we can't compare 1 and 1 because we don't want to add 1 and 1. That's not what we want. So actually what, because it's gonna give us a wrong value because you can't add 1 and 1. Actually we want to add 1 and the following value, so which is 2. So what we can do, we can say here on j, we can mandate and remove this I. Let's amend it and remove 0, and then we put I, we say I plus 1. Okay, so this makes sense. So now we are saying that j is gonna start from 0 plus 1. So 0 plus 1 is gonna start on the next index, all right, of I. So now once we do that, what do we want to do? So if the values are given us to the target, what do we want to do? We can display that, right? Let's say cout, and then we can display that value. Okay, so we can see cout, and then we say the values that gives us the target are, and then we do this, and then we display num I. Because there are two, we also have to display the other one. Display num I, and then we can say and then we also display the other one, which is num j. Okay, that should be fine. So let's run our code and let's see if it gives us 4 and 5 because our target is 9, and then we do have 4 and 5 that adds up to 9. So let's run our code. There we go. So it says the values that gives us the target are 4 and 5. So which means we got it right. So the comparison is fine. So if we do remove that this part here, it was not gonna give us the target that we want, and it was gonna mess up with the loop. That's what I'm saying. It's very much important to understand the nested for loops. All right. So now when we have done that, but actually, what if the array doesn't have those values? Like, what do we do? Because we actually, if array doesn't have those values, actually we need to display something that the targets are not found. But before we do that, let's try to remove 4 and 5, and then let's add 8 and 1. Okay, let's add 8 because I know that if we add 8 plus 1, it should give us 9, which is the target that we want. So now on the output, we should be able to see 8 and 1, because when we add 8 plus 1, they give us 9. So let's run, let's see. There we go. So we got 8 plus 1, 8 and 1, sorry, because they're the ones that give us the target, which is 9. Okay, so now that we are good to go, I think everything should be fine by that. So we can also change and maybe mix the array and make it like we can say 7 and 2 on the stats. Okay, 7 and 2, and then here we can put 10. Okay, so 7 and 2, they give us 8, so you should be able to see 7 and 2. Even when you shuffle the array, it still comes out and give us the values that adds up to target. Okay, so right now, so but wanna display what do like wanna display what if there's something like nothing like values that give us to the targets in the array. So we should be able to display that and say, okay, all right, so in the array there's a nothing that you're looking for, which means that we don't have anything that adds up to give us the target. So how do we do that? So you can just do it in my way that I'm trying to think of doing now. You can just initialize bool, and then we can say bool, we can say is found equals to false. So bool is for it's another data type of boolean, so we use it more especially when we compare between yes and no, and also between true and false, and also ones and zero. So now we want to say that at the moment boolean is false, so if we do get the target, and then we can say is found indeed is equals to true. Okay, but if we don't get the target, which means is found is not equals to true, and the once is found is not equals to true, we have to display a message that says nothing has been found. So we can say if is found, okay, if it's found boolean is not equals to true, okay, we have to put not equals to sign there, and then we can say see out, that's where we were left to display that message that says no values or elements found. Okay, no values or elements found. Okay, so by that we are saying that in the element that we have, or maybe in the array that we have, we don't have the values that adds up to give us the target. All right, let's run this. Let's remove 7, because when we add 7 and 2, it's gonna give us let's put 1. Okay, so let's remove 7 and put 1, because when you add 7 and 2, it was gonna give us 9. So we need something that does not give us 9. So let's run this, because I don't think we have any values that give us 9 there. All right, so it says no values or elements found, because actually on the array we have no any element that give us to 9. So all right, that's it guys for today. So I can say that from this video you should be having a very basics and understanding of how elements and arrays works, because actually you're gonna need this information when you start dealing with data structures at your school or at your office where you currently working. This is much important, and actually when you start doing the interviews, they will ask you a lot about data structures. So thank you so much for pulling through and joining this. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm sure that you're gonna share and like, and then please subscribe, and also ask for a friend if they really want to learn this. Show them and then how it's done, and don't be the only one who's learning. Share with others so that we can also help the channel to grow, and so that I can bring more content about coding. So obviously we are still going far. We're still gonna deal with backend development itself, whereby we'll be dealing with REST APIs and databases. So, but for me to get there, you have to motivate me to share the videos, and so that the video can reach the views that I like, and also the likes, and as well as subscribers. So share this video, okay guys, and then I'm gonna see you. Cheers guys. Thin backend, we code from the back.